an amazing, honestly, another masterclass from you, I would say. There's a lot that I want to talk about when it comes to the whole fuel strategy of that race. When that first yellow came, it immediately split people's races up, and it was going to be a question. It was like, all right, okay, who's going to make this work? Is there going to be another yellow afterwards? Are these new tires, which are designed for the hybrids, like how long are they going to last? I think there was a lot of questions. When you guys looked at the race, was it a question of tire life at first? Were you concerned about which one will last longer, or was it always going to be a bit of a make the fuel strategy work type race?
I think you kind of just go in with the basic strategy first, right? Like you never know when the caution's going to come out. And honestly, you would say that we were kind of trying to go the other way, right? We were going black, green, green. So you were going to go long on the first one. Long Beach is kind of one of those tracks where if you get out of the pits first, so going a lap longer is going to gain you, probably 2 seconds on the overcut anyway. So that was kind of the strategy, right? Is that you go long on the first and then keep going long and keep trying to jump. We've done it kind of both ways in the past, but when the caution came, I knew it was pretty early, unless you got a caution later in the race. So it was going to definitely be a tough slog kind of for that, duration of the race. And it worked out perfectly for us. But, we still had to pass cars. That was the hard part. That was really the hard compromise, trying to pass power, then trying to get through the pack a little bit so that you could build up that lead and maintain that gap. But yeah, it was wild, man. I was, I have a little thing on my wheel where I can see the gap behind. And, once I saw the 2 clear the 12, I was like, here we go. This is where it's going to start to get interesting. But, yeah, he came fast, man.
Yeah, it was very interesting because as a good IndyCar race goes, right? When there's 2 strategies, you're paying attention to 2 different races, right? 2 different groups, and you're trying to see how that worked. The track this year, did you think it was a faster track this year? Did you think it was a good race overall? Like, were you happy with how the cars raced this year compared to others?
Yeah, I was actually more surprised how if you really attacked, you could pass someone. But which I think with us, we trimmed as well. So I think that's where Joseph would have got in trouble, even if it was for another, 5 laps, is that, we still had a ton of overtake. Yes, it's not fun to use overtake when you got to save fuel, but we had really good straight line speed just because we were trimmed, so that, getting into 1 or into 9 was going to be really difficult for him unless he took like a really big lunge in 6 or 8 or something like that. So it's, I think it raced really well. I was kind of surprised when we had speed at different portions of the race that you could actually full on, pass someone quite easily. In kind of that mid pack, which doesn't typically happen. If you kind of get stuck, you might get stuck pretty heavily.
One thing I want to get to before I let Chase jump in here too, the fuel saving. Now, this is a deep question. You are obviously known as one of the best when it comes to making the mileage, one of the best at strategically doing everything that you need to do to win. Is there a portion of your career where you started to get that? Was there an era of IndyCar where like that is where you truly understood the capability of what your right foot could do, of using the rolling speed that you have each corner to slow down the car instead of just inefficiently saving fuel? Or is it just naturally your style? Like you're good at carrying rolling speed? Or does that make sense? Was there a certain era that kind of you figured out you got it? Like, I understand this fuel saving thing.
I think there's always, it's always compromise, right? And I think probably the first key was when I was with Pac West, right? Like we didn't really, my first season, we struggled a little bit. And then that became, the topic of conversation was like, well, if we're going to try and win this race, how do we do it? And that's where how I won my first race at Nazareth was a fuel race. And so you understand that, but I think some of it too is kind of maybe a little bit natural as well, and just how I like the car to be very neutral. So then, when you're in the coasting phase, it obviously turns a lot better. I think a lot of the times some people struggle is when you get to that coasting phase, there's no trail brake going on, there's no weight on the front, so then the car doesn't want to turn. So for me, I think it's kind of a bit of both that really helped me in that scenario to kind of get, good fuel mileage, but also, continue to try and have that good speed.
I love that. Chase, go ahead.
Yeah, man. Scott, good to see you. As always, last time you saw me, I had a 9 shaved in my chest at Gateway last year. So, It's not there anymore. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But
well, it wasn't for me anyway, but that's all right.
yeah. Well, it worked out this past weekend, man. And I'm just, it was a great race to watch, for one. For two, this is this potential to be a big year, man. You're 6-time champion. AJ Foyt, 7-time guy. So this year, really, I guess the big question is are we feeling 7? Are we feeling like this could be the year?
I think every year you start with the mindset of trying to pull that off, right? And not really just thinking about numbers, but just trying to pull off a championship. It is nice to get a win early in the season. We left it pretty late last year, and then they started to tick off a little bit. I think it helps not just the driver, but it's the whole team morale. I think obviously with the 10 getting a win and then the 9, and this season I think it started strong as a group, and we went through a lot of changes in the off season too, which can kind of upset things with people moving around. But I think they've done a very good job on the top of that. So I guess, yeah, man, that's first of all, we'll focus on trying to win an Indy 500, which is extremely tough to do as well. And then we'll see how we fare for the rest of the season. But yeah, hopefully, man, that's the goal.
I like it. I see the energy in your eyes. It's real, and I'm here for it. All right.
So you mentioned Indy, right? That's obviously, it's coming right up, and it's going to be an awesome month of May. There's a lot of energy around this. The car, a little bit lighter of a car, maybe some things that people can look at that might be a little bit different. We've got Kyle Larson as well, a lot of excitement. When you look, obviously you've got Barber in front of us, of course, but I just want to take a quick peek at Indy. You guys obviously have been strong there for forever, essentially. We've run at the front there before. We have no doubt that you'll be at the front there again. You guys feeling good? Only a little bit running at the test, but what's your optimistic outlook for the month of May?
Always good, I think. You said it. I think the Ganassi cars have always, at least in recent history, have had very good cars, especially speed-wise, qualifying, all that kind of stuff. Last year, I think a few of us had some upsets, but Marcus was still close to winning the race, and then I think Palou and myself kind of rebounded pretty good. So the test, yeah, man, nothing really. It was 2 hours of running, and kind of it depends on what schedule everybody's doing, right? It looked like there was a lot of people trying to do clean runs and get some speed. I think the usual suspects look strong, but you never really get to the gist of it, right? I think you kind of had that test as a get some laps in, but once you get to the month of May, and then once you start rolling into qualifying, then the teams kind of bring out the developments from the off season, and we've definitely, I think, got some big ones in the pipeline. So hopefully that helps us with the progression of just how the whole field does. So hopefully Honda will bring some juice as well. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Got
to have the juice. Got to have it. I hope I have the juice and not you, but that's only personal. That's only personal.
I'm hoping Honda has the juice, man.
Yeah.
Juice is good.
Understandable. I mean, honestly, great showing for Honda over the weekend, right? Locked out the podium. You and Palou, obviously your teammate up there. Was that interesting? Because we thought we saw a lot of Chevy dominance at St. Pete and completely flipped it on its head for Long Beach. Obviously, that's got to be cool to see. Both manufacturers just fighting it out. Obviously, Honda had some great stuff going on, good fuel mileage as well. That has to excite you for the rest of the street courses, the road courses. If you guys can make better fuel mileage, if you guys can be fast when you need to be, that's got to be encouraging.
It's very encouraging. I think, St. Pete was a little odd. I think, what was it, 9 out of the 12, I think, were Honda's top 12 this weekend in qualifying. So, they definitely had great speed. And then to get a Honda sweep, I know Joseph had his altercation there, which, maybe that would have been different, anyway. So, but for them, being a home race, for Honda and then HRC and obviously, Acura, that was pretty special, so it was a big deal. I think that both manufacturers are pretty tight right now, man. They kind of do something a little bit different in different areas. So I think that's what makes it so good for competition and for the difference. But, if you look at the first 2 races, I think the manufacturers are almost even on points, which is, there was a big flip, as you mentioned.